You're listening to 90.8 Hills FM Radio.
This is 90.8 Hills FM radio station, using our voice to rate your choice. Stay tuned.
Hello dear listeners, welcome to 90.8 Hills FM, Nagaland's first community radio station. As always, we bring to you a number of interesting guests with whom we can talk, interact and learn from. So on that note, today in our studio we have the very accomplished Dr. Martemjen. Now just to give you a very short gist, and I say a very short gist of his achievements. Currently, he is the founder of CICES, which is Center for Indigenous Culture and Environmental Studies, Nagaland. He is a researcher, he is a teacher, he is an observer member of IPBES, which is Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. In short, he is a researcher, he is an environmentalist, he is actively involved in EGF as well, and he is also actively involved in human rights activities. So, Dr. Ma, thank you so much for sparing your time and being here at the studio with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor to be here. Really blessed and looking forward for this conversation.
So, straight to the point, you are very actively involved in work related to preservation of indigenous culture, right? Spreading of indigenous knowledge. So first and foremost, can you tell us what is the meaning of the word indigenous? Who comes under the word indigenous in a particular area?
Thank you for the query. The word indigenous itself is yet to be clearly defined, and it differs from region to region. Even at UN levels, we are yet to have a concrete definition of indigenous, and at the same time the word indigenous is open for everyone, every indigenous community to define in their own terms. But today generally the word indigenous is being understood as the original people or original inhabitants, those people who settled in that particular area where they're living now, prior to any form of colonization or prior to any form of outward influence. And so those group of people are considered as indigenous. Some people refer to indigenous peoples as native people, or in the context of Americans they are considered as Native Americans. In India we are considered, some regard us as tribals, some understand us as Adivasis, etc. And so there are so many connotations associated with this indigenous, the word indigenous or indigenous people. But generally what we can understand is, or what I love to interpret myself when we talk about indigenous, is the word original. That means we are the original people of this particular land or area.
Original inhabitants of an area, something like that. Okay. So for the protection of indigenous people, you have set up a center. You're the founder of a center, which is Center for Indigenous Culture and Environmental Studies. Can you tell us a little bit about the center?
Yeah, thank you. I am one of the founder member of this CICES, Center for Indigenous Culture and Environmental Studies. And so I have my friends who are taking care of this. I am just, as the name indicates, I am just one of the founder members. And so we initiated this particular organization, or established this particular organization in the year 2016 with the aim to promote, preserve and protect our myriad indigenous knowledge system. At the same time, practices included. So we are based in Dimapur, and we try to promote our indigenous cultural system, and at the same time we also work in preserving our indigenous knowledge system. Along with that, what we try to do is we try to document the various form of indigenous knowledge systems, including the environmental indigenous knowledge system and our cultural practices, cultural songs, ethos, and all those things we try to document, we try to preserve, protect, and at the same time, as I said, we try to promote this at not only at local and national level, but at the global level.
You have mentioned indigenous knowledge system. Can you tell us what is indigenous knowledge system?
Yeah, thank you. indigenous knowledge system is the knowledge held by the indigenous people. Sometimes we kind of interpret or kind of confuse this indigenous knowledge with traditional knowledge systems, but I would like to differentiate between these two. That is, indigenous knowledge system is purely the knowledge system that belongs to indigenous community of that particular region. But when it comes to traditional knowledge system, it is a knowledge system possessed by everyone, in a sense, like they need not be indigenous people, but if they have a certain knowledge that is endemic enough to be considered traditional, then that can be classified as traditional knowledge system. And so when we talk about indigenous knowledge system, it is just the knowledge system which that particular group of indigenous people practices and which they hold on to in their daily life.
So, indigenous knowledge system is a system that is particularly practiced by indigenous people of a certain area.
Yes, yes.
So, can you give us some examples of those indigenous knowledge system that is particularly practiced by, say, the Nagas?
Say, for example, we have various forms of indigenous knowledge system. We have that Morong system, educational system of indigenous knowledge, for example, where the boys come together, they share their knowledge in the evening. Morong is not just simply a boys' dormitory or boys' sleeping room as the general people translates. So there are various indigenous knowledge system associated with it. It is an indigenous educational system. The other can be like when it comes to environment and all those things, we have various practices like never to defecate in a river. Those are indigenous knowledge systems. We have like never hunt a pregnant bird, animal, etc. So those are indigenous knowledge system. Never use your tau or machete unnecessarily. So those are various indigenous knowledge systems. We can talk about from our cultural perspective as well. When we talk about dances, when we talk about songs, all these are indigenous knowledge systems. And coming back to a certain specific indigenous knowledge system, again, the owls have the saying that we learn the art of singing from a song tree. And so those are very unique and interesting indigenous knowledge systems that we possess. I can go on and on, but I think, for now, I think that should be enough.
So your center deals with promotion, preservation of those particular indigenous knowledge systems, right? So how does it work? What does a center do exactly to achieve that goal?
Thank you so much. That is the most challenging part. Today, by the grace of God, we all of the founder members, we are 5 of us. So we get the privilege of traveling around, and so wherever we travel, we tend to tell the outside world, tell the global community about our unique indigenous knowledge systems. That is one way of promoting our knowledge system in person. We do certain small write-ups in the form of publications and all those things. And in future, we have so many other plans and activities that we wanted to do. But as of now, I don't want to disclose it because some people might steal it from us, the idea from us. No, jokes apart. And we have a small YouTube channel. We have put that on hold for now due to some funding issue. And so we have this YouTube channel called Center for Indigenous Sciences. The exact title of the channel is called Fading Science. We have the channel as well. We have Instagram, which is yet to be open publicly, of course, due to some other reasons again. And so those are various forms of us trying to promote our indigenous knowledge systems.
So these are topics which directly affects us. No, it's not something so vague. It's not something so foreign, right? So for our listeners, if you want to have more knowledge about what the center does and what exactly is their goal, you can check out their YouTube channel, Fading Science. Right? And hopefully we'll be expecting your Instagram account or Facebook, your presence in social media very soon.
Yeah, thank you. We will be opening for public very soon.
So you as a researcher, out of all the topics, why did you feel that this topic is the most important? How did you zero in on this particular topic?
Thank you so much. That is a very interesting query. Yeah, I started this. I started getting interest into this field during my PhD days. Right after my masters, when I wanted to go for PhD, I met this supervisor, and so I give all gratitude and thanks to my supervisor for involving me in this particular aspect. My thesis topic was more or less related to this, like conservation of biodiversity through indigenous knowledge. And so, in the process, various UN protocols came into being. The creation of an act such as the UNCBD, which stands for United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity, where in Article 8J they specifically talks about protecting, promoting, and preserving the indigenous knowledge systems of the global indigenous community. And seeing all these things, and given the fact that I also, before I begin my research and all, I never knew that we have such rich indigenous knowledge systems in our own community itself, in our own Naga community itself. And so with all these forces coming into play, I was intrigued into it, and that is how I got interested in doing these studies. And in the process of my PhD, I got the privilege to travel across different countries, learning from all these things, all the different UN sectors. And so yeah, those are a few things. Why I was interested, how and why I was interested, dwelling into this subject. Yeah.
You have also spoke on a number of international platforms, the UN as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the experience? How was it speaking there on an international platform?
Thank you so much. I don't know how to put it, but yeah, it is a humbling experience standing in front of all these renowned scientists, UN personalities. And so, but the most interesting thing is this knowledge system, Naga indigenous knowledge system. It might be like not very important for us from our common Naga perspective, but when we stand before the UN people, all these knowledges are new, and all these knowledges are all this knowledge and practices are kind of very interesting for the global community. And so that makes me easier to stand and talk about our indigenous knowledge systems, and to tell the outside world about us as Nagas. Because when we stand before any audience, the first question that people ask us is, how are you an Indian? You don't look like an Indian, etc. And so those aspects are challenging and interesting at the same time. And so standing in front of global audience always is fascinating and at the same time challenging. But as I said, it is rather in a way easy, because to talk about our knowledge system, which is nothing new to us, but very new to the alien foreign community. And so yeah, it is fascinating, interesting, and humbling experience in a way to stand before this global community and talk about our indigenous knowledge systems.
I assume they must have been in awe when you were just sharing about all the knowledge that you have.
Yeah, in many ways, because as I said, an indigenous fellow born and brought up in Nagaland itself, in a way made in Nagaland, studied in Nagaland, never had outward experiences before. Before completing my PhD, I did my PhD from Nagaland University itself, and so yeah, people are in awe to know us, and especially they are amazed at us when we identify ourselves as unfortunately or unfortunately Indians. Yeah.
So, indigenous knowledge system, coming back to that topic, how is that relevant these days? Especially, how is it relevant in our state?
It is very much relevant. We are yet to realize the importance of this indigenous knowledge system. When I say we, it is the global community, and at the same time, especially Naga community. You see, we know that today, without biodiversity, human beings will struggle to survive, or human beings will get extinct in a way. And so, when we look into certain statistics, we will find out that 80% of the globals, or in other words, world's biodiversity lies in the land of the indigenous people. 80%. Whereas indigenous people only comprises of around 20 something percent of the world land surface. And so in that 20 something land surface, we have 80% of the world's global biodiversity. and we as Nagas are part of that 20-something%, and we contribute to that 80% of the global biodiversity. And so it is very important, and we as a Naga, as an indigenous community, we contribute a lot to it. And so it is very significant. We are a significant community. Our knowledge system is very significant, and it is very important and relevant in today's modern context as well. And so I don't know whether I'm making sense or not, but yeah, it is very important, our indigenous knowledge system, and we as a Naga community.
Do you feel that the way of life of the indigenous people in Nagaland has changed over time?
Yes, of course. We have embraced modernity to such an extent that we are leaving behind our valuable indigenous knowledge system, unfortunately, not realizing that many of the indigenous knowledge system, not only from environmental perspective, but even from economic perspective, from cultural perspective, from political perspective, all these aspects, we have rich and valuable indigenous knowledge systems. Unfortunately, we have left that behind, and we are marching ahead along with the global world with all this impact of globalization coming into play. We have embraced, as I said, modern culture, including the good as well as bad ones. That is the unfortunate scenario of our present context. I just wish that, how I wish that we could carry forward at least few of the invaluable indigenous knowledge system to tell the outside world, to carry forward our indigenous knowledge system. I guess I'm not talking too much, but if I may add one example, like respect of elders is one invaluable indigenous knowledge system that we have from a social perspective. The respect for the environment, we have this one of the most ancient democratic system of governance, talking from a political governance perspective, and so we have so many invaluable indigenous knowledge system which we could have combined with the modern knowledge, and we could have carried forward. But unfortunately, as you said, or as you asked, we have in many ways left behind all our valuable knowledge systems, and we have embraced this modern culture, as a result of which we are experiencing so much conflict in today's context.
This next query will be extremely subjective. So, in your opinion, do you feel that colonization has a role to play when it comes to losing our indigenous knowledge system?
I will not say colonization, but westernization in many ways have impacted a lot. Many people tend to blame, especially from a Naga context, many people tend to blame Christianity for losing our indigenous knowledge system. Yes, Christianity have played its own part, but I believe westernization have also got a lot to play when we talk about impacting our cultural system or knowledge system rather than colonization. And talking about colonization, we can always proudly say that Nagas were fully never colonized by any other nations. And so from a Naga context, some might disagree with me, but I will say that rather than colonization, we will say westernization in the form of Christianity and other cultural role or cultural perspective have impacted our knowledge system or cultural system more than colonization. Yes, you will say that westernization and Christianization are all part of colonization, but I think there is a thin red line behind all those things, and so we need to categorize and understand this from those different perspectives.
That topic about Christianity being responsible for losing our indigenous way of life, this is the talk that has been going around in recent months so much in a lot of closed seminars as well, just general conversation as well.
Very
right?
much.
Now, you are an active member of EGF, Dimapur EGF, right?
Very much.
And you are trying to preserve our indigenous knowledge system as well. So sometimes, do you find it difficult to balance? Like, how do you maintain that balance?
No, for me, it was always easy. I have tried to understand this from both the perspective, and never in doubt about how do I say, distinguishing Christianity and Naga cultural system. They are like cultural and social setup, and our spiritual and religious setup are like two sides of a coin. And so we have been created to live in the world. That means we have been created by God to live in this present world. That means we are part of this present world. So in other words, it also means to say that we should be part of the cultural system. We should be part of the ecological system that where we are living in. And so we need to separate these two, but at the same time they should go together hand in hand, as I said, like two sides of a coin. And so some people say that if we want to be religious, or if we want to be spiritual, we should leave behind our cultural value system and all those things. But no, I think we cannot separate these two, and we cannot live without the other. And so we need to take care of our spiritual side as well, but at the same time, this cultural aspect also plays a very important role. And as I said, these two cannot be separated. That is my take always.
So, if you were asked regarding suggestions, right? What can we individuals or organizations or government also, what can we do to preserve and protect our indigenous land, resources, and environment?
Thank you so much. That is a broad question. So we are fortunate enough to have that Article 371A. So constitutionally, we are protected. Of course, we are we are put into a position where we are touting the mind of the sender or mind of those people who have created all those constitution and all. We are kind of scared whether this 371A will be taken away from us or not, with the context of Jammu and Kashmir coming into play again, abrogation of 370. And so, but as of now, fortunately, we have this 371, and so constitutionally we are protected. Our culture, our tradition, our knowledge system are being protected. But leaving aside this 371, what we can do is we need to keep on practicing. We need to revive our good indigenous knowledge practices, be it from a cultural perspective, be it from an economic perspective or political perspective. And we need to practice this. Unless and until we practice this, these things will wane away, or these things will get extinct. The unique thing about indigenous knowledge is that it is a living knowledge. And so unless you live this knowledge, you will not be able to carry this forward. Unlike Western knowledge is a knowledge which we don't put into practice, which we don't use practically much. But indigenous knowledge is a system which we apply it in our daily lives. And so, as I said, it is a living knowledge. And so this living knowledge should continue to live on. Otherwise, it will get extinct. It will die off or die soon. And the threat is real. Most of us, we can't speak even our native languages anymore, leave alone reading and writing. And so the threat is real. It is alarming. So we need to wake up from our slumber and, as I said, put it into practice, the rich indigenous knowledge system of ours.
So indigenous knowledge is living knowledge, you said.
Yes.
Whereas Western knowledge is, how do I put it? It's not a living knowledge.
Non-theoretical, non-practical,
Non-practical.
more or less theoretical knowledge. Yeah.
So, I mean, what exactly is the difference, living knowledge and theoretical? How do you differentiate it? Like, can you give us some examples?
Yeah, it is like, when I say living knowledge, as I said, it is a knowledge that needs to be practiced all the time in our daily activities. For example, we were more or less agriculturalist, and so indigenous knowledge system was more or less related to this environment, agriculture, and all. And so, right from a young age, we have been trained. When I say we, our ancestors have been trained in such a way that they have to live that knowledge. So never put your machete unnecessarily, means every day they are going to the field, and so they are living that knowledge, and so they have to have that self-control not to put that machete. They are always by the river side, so never defecate on the river. I am just bringing those few examples as for today, but we have so many such myriad good indigenous knowledge system. And so it is as I said, it is a living knowledge, it is a practical knowledge. But Western science, we have read about Mahatma Gandhi, we have read about Jawaharlal Nehru, but those are just kind of theoretical knowledge. We cannot put into practice much of those things. We have learned about the freedom movement. We have learned about different global knowledge of different countries and all those things. So we have the general concept, general knowledge of what has happened in US in 15th century, 16th century, etc. But we cannot live that knowledge. What we can have is we just have it in our mind, put it into whenever we need it, we can refer to it, etc. But this indigenous knowledge system, not just in our mind, but we have to live it practically. And that is what I mean when I say living knowledge.
I find it so interesting. I think it will be so cool if we can have a proper open talk show about it. I think this kind of knowledge, it's like we discussed earlier, it affects us directly. Right? We're not talking about some other things, talking about things that affect us directly. Maybe your center can do something, collaborate with some organization and have an open talk show.
Yeah, we do that. Just a few... On World Environment Day on June 5, we also conduct the capacity building workshop. And so we do such small workshops because of funding issues. Again, in order to organize all those things, we need money. And so with the limited budget we have, we organize these small workshops, seminars. We are planning to have one in Mokokchung, most probably in January. And right after that, perhaps we will come back to Dimapur and we will be having another seminar. And so we as a research center, we also do those things. And so hopefully, more people will join and we will have open discussions, as you said.
That will be really good. I mean, it's like we know more about foreign knowledge than our indigenous knowledge at this point.
Yeah, that's what...
Now, on a lighter note, you have traveled extensively. I think you have traveled almost half of the world as of now.
Not half of the world. Yeah, but...
What has been your most memorable experience so far? And do you have any, say, a few lessons, takeaway lessons that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, thank you so much. It is always a humbling experience to travel abroad. I always say this to my friends. You can learn two things when you travel and come back to Nagaland. The one is you can have that proud feeling of visiting a certain country, that I have been there, I have done that, I have did that, I have been to that place, etc. And the second option is learn from wherever you go. Learn from humbly, learn from all the experiences that you get and come back humbly, realizing that we are nothing compared to all those advanced, developed countries. When I say we are nothing, I am not saying that we are valueless. No, but from that another aspect, I hope you will not misunderstand me in that. And so, as I said, it is always a humbling experience to travel abroad and learn from the global community wherever I go. One of the most humbling experience that I've ever experienced was meeting Jose Ramos Horta. He is the Nobel Peace Laureate in the year 1998, if I'm not mistaken. Currently, he is the president of East Timor. So when I was there, he invited us for a dinner one night. And we were intrigued, excited to visit this place. He was then the prime minister of his country. When we went inside his house, what we found out was he was just living in a humble cottage, unlike us, Nagas, where we love building huge palaces, kind of palaces. And so he was living in a humble cottage. He had a room where he collected all those old chairs, benches, etc. from his neighboring houses or from dustbins and all those things he gathered, renovated it, and he was keeping it in more or less like a common room where all of us were seated. And they lack adequate drinking water facility. And so what he did was he dug a bore well and he was sharing that drinking water facility to the people of Tilai in and around. And so generous, so giving, so humble. People reputed such as him, having received the Nobel Prize for Peace, being the former prime minister of his own country and now the president of his own country, seeing him living such a humble life, doesn't travel much with all this securities and all. And so that was a humbling experience. I learned a lot from him, and so far that is one of the most humbling experiences that I've experienced, meeting him, getting to visit him and learning from him. Yeah.
It's like he he chose that profession for a reason. He was very he made a conscious decision when it comes to that profession, unlike many others.
Yeah,
Right.
I think so. Yeah.
Now you're also actively involved in EGF, Dimapur EGF.
Yes.
I think you've been
am.
involved for many years now.
Yeah, I was introduced to this EU ministry during my college days. I was reluctant to join at first, but our circle secretary kept on insisting me, and so I joined this EU ministry in the year 2003, and ever since I have found joy in being part of this ministry, learning more from God-loving people. Rather than giving, I will say that rather than giving, I have received more from this ministry. As a believer, it is always good to have good people around us. It is always good to have fellowship coming together. Churches are good, and churches have played an important role in my life as well. But the drawback of churches is that we don't have small community where we come together, share our problems. Our pastors are so busy that we cannot go and meet them, share our thoughts, etc. No, we cannot do that, and we understand their position as well. But what a ministry such as USI or EGF or EU does is like it brings people together, have fellowship, encourage one another whenever we are in doubt, whenever we are in sickness, people coming and pray for us, etc. So yeah, it has been a wonderful experience being part of this EU ministry as well.
So somebody who has not been involved in EU since college, right, can that person also be part of EGF? Like how do we become part of it?
Yes, of course.
How
It
do
is.
we do
It
it?
is. EGF stands for Evangelical Graduate Fellowship, and so graduate doesn't necessarily mean academic graduate academically. So if you are settled, if you think that you are in a way settled, you can always come and be a part of this EGF. Initially, you will struggle a little bit to understand this ministry, but yeah, once you start coming, I think you will enjoy this. Unlike other ministries, it is a student ministry where we reach out to students in colleges, in the universities. It is not a church. We encourage our members to take active role in churches. We encourage our members to go to church, to be part of their church. As a result, we make sure that our programs don't clash with the church timings of different communities. And so, yeah, anybody can always come and be a part of this EGF. Yeah.
Now I think you have also been to Philippines, I believe,
Yes.
for a program. Out of the many countries, you have also been to Philippines.
Yeah.
So the program was something to do with intellectual property rights.
Yeah.
So can you tell us something about that experience and what you learned, and how you can apply that knowledge in our state as well?
I forgot which year it was, but it was quite some time back. The World Intellectual Property Organization, they organized a program on intellectual property rights. And so I was invited to be part of that program. So yeah, I went there for a week or so. We were trained in a way, we learned about, as the name indicates, we learned about intellectual property rights. And so we have the knowledge system. We have discussed so many indigenous knowledge system right now. And so we have the knowledge system, but we don't know how to protect them. We have our cultural shawls, cultural dances, cultural etc. So many things we have, but we don't know how to protect them. And so IBR is a tool, the intellectual property rights is a tool that helps us to protect our indigenous knowledge system, our cultural products, and all these things. And so it is a program where we are being educated about how to do patenting. For example, the indigenous shawls that we have. I am sure most of the tribal shawls are yet to be patented. And so the problem with if we don't patent this, some other community can just copy and use it. And so there is the danger of it. And so it is always good to patent our cultural display, I am struggling to bring out the right word, but yeah, our cultural products, be it basket making, all these things differ from another community in their style, in their making, and all these things. So we can always patent these things. And not only patenting, yeah, there are so many ways to how we protect our cultural practices. Not only the tools and shawls or meklas, etc. But we can also protect our knowledge system. For example, our people have a rich history of conserving our forest system by the community, and so it is a good indigenous knowledge or indigenous practice, and so we can always try, or we can always use these IBR tools to protect our knowledge system, to let the outside world know that this is our knowledge system and this is not some other tribal community knowledge system, etc. So we can talk a lot about this IBR, but in brief, that is what it is all about.
Interesting. That is such a great way to protect our culture.
Yeah, very much.
I think other than that, you have also, you've attended so many workshops, but one of the workshops that you attended was about OECMS, was it?
Yes, OECMS.
I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Can you tell us, what is OECMS, and what you learned from the workshop? Is it related to indigenous knowledge system, preserving of indigenous knowledge system?
Yeah, thank you for bringing up that topic. OECM stands for Other Effective Area Community-Based Managed Systems, and so I just recently attended this workshop in China, and I came back a few weeks back, and so I feel like it is an important tool for us. So we have this biosphere reserves, we have national parks, we have zoos and all to protect different forms of biodiversity in India and abroad. And so what this OECM does is, if we have a certain area of land in our village which is being protected, and we don't want this to be recognized by the government, or we don't want this to be recognized as a national park or a sanctuary, etc., then we can include that particular page of land in that OECM. And so what OECM does is, it gives us the liberty to protect it in our own way. And so, for example, if a particular forest is declared a reserve forest or a national park, you and I don't have the right to go inside that forest and hunt or cut trees or gather anything from that particular forest. Of course, we don't practice that in reality, but that is the general norm. And so what this OECM does is, we can bring forward whatever land that we have been preserving, and then we can let it be recognized as OECM, and at the same time we can also keep on doing what we are doing in the forest, to gather things for our needs, to sometimes, if necessary, go and hunt if need be. So likewise, that is the thing which this OECM provides, and that is what the global community. OECM is a new thing; it is a new concept from the global community perspective as well. And so the UN people, they are bringing up this concept of declaring a certain area. So it need not necessarily be a forest. It can be a agricultural land. It can be a kind of aquatic reserve area kind of a thing, a small pond, river, etc. Of course, they are yet to let us know the specific, what should be the limit, what should be the minimum area in order to be that area to be considered OECM and all. They are working on it, and hopefully we will be able to get an idea about it very soon. But I feel like this OECM is a very important tool which we as indigenous Nagas can utilize to the maximum. As a villager, the village council can start acting upon it, and then in the long run, I am sure they will be providing specific or certain funds to maintain that OECM as well. And so those are this OECM is one way to preserve our village protected areas if it is not recognized by the government, and try to benefit out of it as well.
Such an excellent concept. I think if we can
much.
apply this in our state also,
Yeah,
it will
very
be
much.
really great. No?
Yeah, true.
Maybe we can do it with a lot of I can't think of a proper word other than land grabbing. I think we can do with a lot of that if we can apply this properly.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
There is also something called IPBES. Is it you're an observer member of that particular organization?
Yeah.
Does that organization also deals with protection of biodiversity?
Yeah,
or-
it is more or less a branch of the UNCBD, and it also talks about, as the name indicates, it is intergovernmental policy makers coming into play along with the practitioners, along with the indigenous community. And so they bring out different strategies, different policies on how to effectively manage, protect, preserve all our not just the indigenous knowledge system, but they specifically focus on biodiversity, like how a certain species can be protected and all these things. Yeah, so yeah, I am fortunate to be an observer member of this IBBS. Yeah.
You carry a lot of knowledge with you, actually. I be it about property rights or OECM, right? I'm saying it correctly.
Yeah.
I think your organization have set the bar really, really high when it comes to
That I don't
protection
know.
of indigenous
We're not doing
knowledge.
much, but yeah.
And we're really looking forward to it, actually, as to like what's your next step, and how we listeners can also contribute towards helping you in growing your organization, in the growth of your center. So we wish you all the best. And like I said, I think you set the bar really high. We're really looking forward to what's the next step of the center.
Thank you. I will not disclose that. But yeah, you can. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah.
However, even though we're coming towards the end of the interview, still I would like to ask some few more questions here. Number one being, what is the role played by indigenous inhabitants of Nagaland, and what role can we play to protect, say, biodiversity of our area?
What role can we play? I think if we adhere to the dynamic and rich indigenous cultural system of ours, that itself will be a huge contribution. By nature, we are nature-loving people. We see that from our culture. We see that from our folklore. Our relationship with the nature is so much so that animals and birds were considered kin, a relative or a sibling kind of, and so we have this notion of lycanthropy. Not exactly lycanthropy, but kind of like man by day and tiger by night. I have shared about learning song from a tree. We have people who claim to have the spirit of a paidan, etc. And so our relationship with the nature is kind of a kin relationship, a sibling relationship. And so given that fact, if we can love the nature, if we can protect our nature the way we have been protecting in the past, not in this present context, not how the present Naga generation is doing, but if we can go back a little bit and practice those things, I think that will be a huge contribution to the global biodiversity. Hunting should be less, I believe. In the past, hunting was a kind of pride for our society. Hunters, we are so prowess, but today the concept has totally changed. We don't have the indigenous knowledge system of hunting anymore. Everybody hunts anything and everything that comes their way. This is not our culture. We say that we were hunters, we are gatherers, but no, we were hunters, but not the way we are hunting today. And so if we can go back a little bit, learn how we were, and then put it into practice, then I think we will be playing a huge role in protecting and preserving our biodiversity, not just for ourselves, but for the global community. As we all know that we lie in this Indo-Burma biodiversity belt, which is one of the mega biodiversity hotspot region of the world. And so if we can limit ourselves, if we can preserve our culture, and if we can protect our biodiversity, then that will be a huge role that we will be playing in protecting the global biodiversity.
Maybe one thing that, let's say, young people can do. Can you suggest one thing that youngsters, be it college students or high school students, can do to preserve and promote our indigenous knowledge system? Can you give us some suggestions?
I am struggling to rightly remember that phrase, but it's simple, like that think local, and they say think local and act global, something like that. But I will be like, act local, think local, and be global. I think that will be my advice. Act and think local.
Yeah, true. Act local, think local.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, true. So thank you so very much, Dr. Mar, for being here with us. We are so honored, and as I've said earlier, we are really looking forward to what your center is going to do in the future. I feel like your organization is going to play a very huge role in the protection of our Indigenous knowledge. Is there any final message that you'd like to give to our listeners?
Thank you so much once again for having me. It has been an absolute honor and a privilege for me to be having this conversation with all of you. I hope the listeners at least get something out of it. If at all I am told to give a final message to the listeners, I am the one who should be told about or advise. I feel like I'm not in a position to convey any message to anyone. But since you have asked me, it will be like, love the Lord with all your heart. Give your best in all that you do. There is a Chinese saying that a farmer who wakes up early every morning and works hard for 365 days in a year never fails to get rich. And so if you want to be rich, work hard. If you want to be successful, work hard. Love the Lord, and I am sure you will find satisfaction in this life. Yeah, that will be my
Amen. Totally seconded.
Thank you so much.
So listeners, there you have it. That was Dr. Mara. I hope this conversation was informative. Make sure that you check out their YouTube channel, Fading Science. Correct?
Yeah, Fading Science.
And we are looking forward to their presence in the social media platforms as well.
Yeah, thank you. Which we'll share very soon. Yeah.
Lovely. So listeners, continue listening to 90.8 Hills FM. This is your RJ Thamsa signing off.
You're listening to 90.8 Hills FM Radio.
This is 90.8 Hills FM radio station, using our voice to rate your choice. Stay tuned.